So today we are responding to even more comments. If you had seen the YouTube video we published yesterday morning, you would have seen the comments that Elliotte Friedman made about the idea of a Kirby Dach trade. He went out there and speculated on the 32 Thoughts podcast whether or not Montreal Canadiens center Kirby Dach could be an intriguing trade target for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And it was an interesting idea. You know, we went out there and discussed it, talked about the profile of Dach, talked about the age, what the Penguins are looking for, where exactly a Dach departing Montreal argument comes from, and what it could look like if you ended up thinking about what that might be like. And we had some comments, we had some people going out there and agreeing, some disagreeing, others, I would say mostly, going out there on the contrary, saying, hey, wait a minute, whoa, I know Kirby Dach has had a bit of a rough stretch as of late, but you can't go out there and seriously consider trading him at this point, right? Anyways, we had ourselves some updates as to this entire Canadiens trade conversation, courtesy of Patrick Friolet on Twitter. He does stuff for RDS. I'm pretty sure y'all have seen him on TV and in the past if you have been paying attention to general RDS programming. But he went out there and made this post on Twitter yesterday after the Elliotte Friedman podcast clip of the Kirby Dach trade idea. La réflexion du collègue Elliotte Friedman au sujet de Kirby Dach a fait du chemin. We're gonna go out there and translate it. Colleague Elliotte Friedman's thoughts on Kirby Dach have made their way to the point of becoming a rumor. After checking, the Montreal Canadiens have absolutely no intention of trading Kirby Dach. The GM was categorical. Now, there aren't any quotes around this sentence, but I'm going to assume that they're quotes. We believe in him, and he is a part of the team's plans. So, there you go. You gotta go out there and give your sources where they're due, and this is indeed one of the conclusions that I would say you can get from the Kirby Dach idea. However, even though it's been apparent by Montreal, let's just say Montreal people, this Friolet tweet says, oh yeah, I checked with the Canadiens. He doesn't really say who in the Canadiens organization, but he said, yeah, after checking, the Habs have no intention of trading him, they believe in him, and he's part of their plans. So, we're going to assume that somebody in the Montreal Canadiens contacted Friolet and responded to this quandary as to whether or not Dach could be traded to Pittsburgh. And if you go over to some of the replies, you have Canadiens fans pretty divided in a certain way that I think it bears repeating. Let's go out there and take a look at some of these, shall we? Well, if they have no intention of trading him, there's a problem. He should not be untouchable and should be in discussions regularly in case an acceptable offer is made. In my opinion, Kirby Dach is a new Jonathan Drouin. A center or a winger? I have a feeling of deja vu. He's starting to get more intense, and that's how he's going to get through this. He's too soft, like he's been on top of his game since the beginning of the year. The reality is quite different, but that's the perception he gives. The Penguins have nothing to offer the Canadiens in a trade anyway. Now, these are all comments that I translated from French into English because, of course, it's RDS. Friolet's a French dude tweeting in French, so a lot of the replies are French. But it's interesting to see the francophone side of Montreal Canadiens fan discourse and how it plays out, because in a lot of the comment section of yesterday's video, we saw a lot of Canadiens fans kind of jumping to the gun and saying, yeah, no, he should be kept around. This is a long-term project. This is a young guy. He's only 23 years old. He's going to get better. We shouldn't give up on him as Canadiens fans, right? And ultimately, it's a pretty fair perception to have. Yeah, he's so young. Why would you give up on him in the same way that Chicago did so early on in his career? But a lot of the francophone fans going out there and saying, okay, he shouldn't be untouchable. He should be involved in trade conversations. He should be an option. The Canadiens shouldn't fully take him off the trade table, and even going as far to say that he's like the new Jonathan Drouin. Oh, it's a pretty hot take, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to think about these guys having the same sort of style, like they don't play the same way. Drouin and Dach, of course, I get that there are similarities in terms of the story. Third overall guys, former top picks, drafted out of Tampa, drafted out of Chicago, eventually traded over to Montreal, and supposed to be a big deal. In fact, it is kind of funny just how many top picks the Canadiens have had. I mean, we've made this link before, right? Third overall guys from Drouin to Kotkaniemi to Kirby Dach now. It's kind of funny how the third overall name always seems to find himself in Montreal in some respect. What's next? Pierre-Luc Dubois? Oh wait, that almost happened. But for Montreal and these third overall guys, Drouin was the only one that was like, oh, is he a center? Is he a winger? We don't really know. And then there was controversy there, and then there was development issues there. Dach, I don't want to say that's necessarily the same thing that's been going on here. Part of the reason he was even thrown onto the first line all those months ago, or weeks ago, I guess I could say instead, was because of the injury to Juraj Slafkovsky, and that was a really big thing that took Dach out of his normal center position and placed him on the top line. There, he produced a pretty decent amount of points, actually got hot for I think like 3 or 4 games, and then nothing. Now, there are conversations that you can have about whether or not Kirby Dach's long-term development at center with Montreal actually is feasible, and whether or not he's able to reach that Ryan Getzlaf-like ceiling. While it is true that Canadiens fans will generally, I'd say, go to bat for this guy, especially all over social media. You go over to our Habs subreddit material, Habs replies on Twitter, a lot of people going out there and saying that Dach is going to get better. There is a pretty intriguing part of the fan base that says the contrary, that Kirby Dach and his development has not gone as well as you wanted to. There's a reason Chicago traded this guy away, and whether or not that actually does fit in with the center position long term. There have been some posts made on the RHAB subreddit debating whether or not Kirby Dach would be better developed as a winger, whether or not his center prowess is actually legit, and if he has the necessary development within him to be able to become a top 6 center who's capable of 65 to 70 points a year and a whole bunch of assists. Is he more suited to the wing, where he has less responsibility down the middle? Does he play more of a perimeter-style game that allows him to create plays from the outside? Is that going to benefit him if he plays more so on the wing, and what does that mean for the rest of the Canadiens and their forward core? So to hear Elliotte Friedman's comments get debunked so quickly, and to see a lot of the ensuing Canadiens discourse from francophones talking about how Dach's development as a center hasn't necessarily been as straightforward as you would have expected, it kind of gets those Drouin blinkers going back over again. It's starting to feel a little bit like a deja vu situation, so I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the notion of Montreal fully believing that Kirby Dach is a part of their team's future. What are your thoughts on how Dach is apparently untouchable? Let's just throw that word out there because they envision him as a part of their future. What are your thoughts on whether or not this is actually the right idea? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you are a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, how does all this make you feel? Do you think there's a winger spot for Kirby Dach available in your roster that you would rather see your team try to explore instead? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.